This is the Agency Balance Podcast, where we talk about agency life, client relationships, and your own personal balance. Agency Balance is sponsored by SmartAcre. SmartAcre helps you automate, enhance, and accelerate your B2B marketing. Visit GetSmartAcre.com to get your free marketing and sales assessment.
Here are your co-hosts of the Agency Balance Podcast, David Snyder.
And I'm Lisa Zwickel.
Welcome to the Agency Balance Podcast Season 2. I am so excited to bring an amazing guest to you today, Sharon Mostyn. Sharon, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Sharon has an incredible bio and background. We're gonna have fun here for the next, I don't know, however long we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk. Sharon has founded the Mostyn Marketing Group. You're a Google partner agency really specializing in measuring, optimizing for marketing and advertising, both on the B2B, B2C, nonprofit, and what I like, the AFTA, the agency for the agency. I love that. We're going to dig really into that. Experience with web analytics, social media, paid search, SEO, email messaging, and leveraging optimization throughout that journey. So, wow, we're gonna come back to your bio because I want to dig into all the things. I've looked at your LinkedIn profile. You got a lot going on, girl. I'm gonna hit you right out of the gate with a question. So I know you attend a lot of events and you're on other podcasts, and you're in it every single day. So can you share with our listeners one thing right now, one thing that you're seeing in our industry that just has taken you by surprise or shocks you?
So the thing that has taken me by surprise recently is the easy acceptance of AI. And not just from the whole computers are taking over the world perspective, but also because, there's so many things that need to be optimized and that need to be reviewed. It really isn't necessarily the quick and easy solution that so many people see it. You have to build a really good query to get any sort of decent result. When you get that result, you need to fact check it, because there have been any number of examples where AI has pretty much made up the results. Things like, ChatGPT, for example, stopped learning in 2021. And so anything that's current events, if you want to talk about the Tony Award winners for 2023 or the Tony Award nominees, all of that information is not in there. And so it could make it up. And you could be in a lot of trouble by using just kind of straight out. And then not only do you have to fact check it, now you have to make it sound like it's coming from a real person rather than a Wikipedia entry. So
Yeah.
AI is the big surprise to me, that everybody's really just like all in on AI right off the bat.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because, AI has been around for a while now. It's been around forever. But what we're doing with it is different, right? I think we've seen what we saw in the pandemic, 10 years of acceleration in a year's time in the tech. What I saw happen in the first quarter this year was like 2x that, like the speed in which we're moving. There's a couple things, right? Like that for me that comes to mind. And I want to ask you about some of these. One is like privacy, right? And the like, holy crap, we got to slow down here. And like you said about fact checking and making sure that we're doing this in a responsible way. I think so. My advice right out of the gate is slow down what you're doing with it. Two, like be purposeful. I think there's a place for it, right? I don't think it's not going to eliminate us as humans. I just saw a study. They went head to head with a ChatGPT versus an accountant in the finance world. They both took the accounting exam for like the CPA, and the human had passed with like a 74. I think you need to see, and then the AI bot failed. So they're not replacing us, they're not, the days of
Not yet.
Not yet. So, but talk about that a little bit deeper about privacy, and because I care about that a lot, like security, privacy, what have you seen? What can you share more about that?
So GDPR in Europe is still kind of the de facto standard, if you will. But if you look, not only now as California have their privacy policies and regulations in place, but there are at least 5 other states that within 2023 have some sort of privacy policy regulations that are going to impact us. I think it's going to be a challenge from a marketer's perspective to make sure that everywhere you're marketing, you're following those guidelines. And I think similar to other situations, you're going to have to kind of find the most strict in those areas that you're marketing and go from there. There's also been a huge in the healthcare industries. There's been a huge, uh, like you said, hockey stick influx of HIPAA regulations, and how HIPAA is tracking in Google Analytics. With the GA4 transition, that was supposed to help, but some of the legal opinions that I'm seeing really are saying we don't trust Google at all. So
Wow.
that's a scary one, and that there are a lot of companies that will be impacted by that.
So if I'm out there and I'm listening to this and I'm like having an oh crap moment, and I know some of this stuff and maybe I don't know some of this stuff as a listener, how do they, I mean, other than just Googling it, is this where you come in, your group comes in to help companies, or how can they learn more about this what's going on?
So I'm not a lawyer and I don't play one on TV, but I do, based on what we're seeing with other clients, and it's not just Master Marketing Group, it's any trusted advisor that has experience in your industry with your target audiences in your geographic locale that can help with things like that. But yes, we do provide guidance or recommendations based on what we've seen other clients implement. And we preface it all with, we are not lawyers, and you need to check with your legal counsel, because the same way as marketers, some are a little bit more free flowing than others. Lawyers are the same way. Some are a bit more conservative than others, and depending on the industry, you may really need one of those conservative legal opinions.
That's great advice. Yeah, if you're not working with legal counsel or you haven't in a while, it's good to touch base with them. Maybe who you're using as your lawyer, if they're a part of a firm, your point of contact may have helped you with maybe like contracts or something like that. And this might not even be in their realm, but ask them. I bet you somebody in their firm has dealt with this already, can point you in the right direction. So that's great. That's really great advice. You said something there that I started a LinkedIn post yesterday, and this is the way I write and I create videos. Like, I'll just write it or I'll record it, and then I won't publish it for a little bit. I'll go like walk around and I'm like, let's make sure that this is sounding okay. And after I reread this post, it was a rant, and I was like, I can't post this. This is just a rant. No one wants to hear Dave Snyder ranting about something, and it's about email. Take a guess. Over or under 25,000 unread emails in my inbox.
Oh, I would hope under, but I'm
Nope, twice that.
guessing over.
Nope, twice that. 47,000 unread emails I have. I get so many emails in a given day to the point where I'm almost ready to I'm done with email. I'm not going to use email anymore. If you know me and want to get in touch with me, you will. All right. I probably won't cut off email, but what has bothered me with email is two things. I want to circle back to the AI thing, because some of the emails I get, they sparked my interest. That person's name, maybe the subject line is just custom enough so that it's not out of the box. But then I read the email and it's purely like generated. It's using automation. It's so poorly put together, or it feels so dated, like they wrote it a couple years ago and it's like set it and forget it. That drives me bonkers. But Here's the bigger thing. You talked about GDPR and these regulations of what's going on. How is it that companies are still emailing me that I've never contacted, that I've never opted in, that I've never reached out to for legitimate business consent? How are they doing this? How are they reaching me?
So that's a can spam compliance if you're in the US, or Castle if you're in Canada. And basically, what they're doing is they're working around loopholes. And the loophole is that you can contact someone, general guidelines are once, with a list that that you've acquired, um, whether that's at a trade show, or through other nefarious means, maybe AI. but if you the way that the can spam laws and the way that the email laws are written, it says you have to do some of these things. You have to um, identify that it is an advertisement. You have to give a physical address, not a PO box, a physical address. You have to give them an option to opt out. All of those things that you have to do in order to be can spam compliant don't necessarily mean that they can't email you. It just means that they have to give you that option. Now, if you respond to those emails, then they'll put you on another list that gives you all of the emails. And hopefully that's a large part of the 40,000 plus emails that you have unread. But and the crazy thing is that we don't just see it in email. We see it in social media as well, especially on platforms like LinkedIn, where people can message you and say, hey, like I saw that you're hiring. Well, I haven't hired a day in Boston Marketing's history. So don't tell me that you saw that I'm hiring. Same type of thing on Facebook and Instagram and things like that, where people comment in on your posts and they're like, oh, like here's I follow everything that you post, and I really am excited by it, and da 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 da. And you know that they're just spammers, that because they've posted the same thing on 57 things that you've created. And and if you look at other people's, they're doing the same thing. They're spammers, they're nefarious. And it's tough to really get rid of them, whether it's in your email inbox or in your social media or really any other channel at this point.
Yeah, there's just so much that's clogging up the works right now. So if you're listening, don't be one of those people clogging up the works. Uh, because I will block you. I will not click anything. I will unsubscribe it. I'll do my hardest to block you. Uh, or I just don't even. The problem with that though, the problem with that is when I do get important emails, sometimes I miss them.
Mhm.
Sometimes I miss them. So that becomes, part of the problem. That it's interesting you brought up about the social, because I have been seeing that as well, not just on LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn's horrible with InMail. And what I've tried to do personally, because for sales, when I'm doing cold outreach, and that's one of the things that I've really been doing is a lot of cold, is I really take the white glove approach and I try to make it as personal as possible, whether if it's sending a personal video or it's not even coming out of the gates guns ablazing trying to sell. It's just trying to humanize the conversation. So I think if you're using AI, you really got to think about that. And just when you think you've got it all figured out, test it, roll it out slowly. There was a client, I'm sorry, not a client, a prospect that we were speaking to that was having difficulty with deliverability. And they were doing all the wrong things. They were doing these things where they didn't slowly test it. I mean, they fired up their email programs. I'm not going to say the systems or who they are, but like they fired it up and they were like sending like a million emails right out of the gate. Like, come on, you got to warm up your domain. You got to warm up your IP. You got to like go through this motion and test things. So it's really important from a compliance, from a privacy, getting lawyers involved. It's really important. It really is. But thanks for sharing some of the social stuff. How does that play into like the difference between like the paid side of it? So you're involved in the paid, correct? Paid search.
Yeah.
How does that play into like the spamminess of it? Like I know like, obviously we all have trained eyes now if we see something that's sponsored or whatever, but do you see any problems with the paid side of things with kind of spamminess or what we're talking about with AI or anything like that?
So, from a paid perspective, one of the positive things that I'm seeing AI help with is if you build the query right, you can use AI to generate headlines and descriptions, for example, in Google Ads or Microsoft Ads, um, and create, 100 of them or 50 of them or 25 of them, and then narrow them down based on what you think would be resonating. The whole idea behind Google's or any search engines, but we're a Google partner, so I'll use Google as an example. But the whole idea behind the Google uh, bidding process is that it uses AI and has used AI for years to determine which ad it thinks will perform better and serve that one at a higher position. So it really is. There are positive AI things too, but I think that from a paid perspective, we see less spam because they have to pay for it. And if they're not paying for it, then if it's not working for them, then they're not paying for it.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's the way I see AI really helping as well. The way I kind of like summarize what's going on right now, how you can apply it is like one, yeah, summarization. Use AI to help summarize what you're doing to help maybe draft some things. Two, use it to help with the quick repeatable task that you're doing over and over and over again. There you go. A great example, bid management or, what's outperforming A/B testing, use the better, right? The other cool thing is with analytics, I'm really seeing a lot of our software partners, one SalesLoft, we're using, they're just rolling out a new dashboard called Rhythm. And from a sales perspective, what they're doing is they're putting all of your to-dos in this dashboard. You need to follow up with this person. This one's red hot. This one needs an email. This one needs a LinkedIn touch, whatever it might be. But it's using AI based off of past data to say that this is your best next step to engage with this prospect. So it's using AI, and that what it's doing is prioritizing. And I've always talked about prioritization is your superpower. So if you can use AI to prioritize, and that frees up an hour more of your day to do things like help clients, sell more, do more of the things that you want to use your brain power to do versus using AI. Absolutely, go for it and use it.
I definitely agree. That speaks to the balance of the good and the evil in AI, the balance of the AI and the humanization in marketing, because, even though it generates that list of all of these, options for testing, you've got to make that determination as a human as to what's going to resonate best with your audience. You've got to make that specific decision on prioritization to say, what, AI thinks that this is my next best step, but based on my experience with this person in the past, or based on my experience with people like this, they're less likely to respond to an email than they are to a text message or a phone call or whatever. I have one client who specifically said, like, don't text me. He's like, if you want my attention, he's like, call me, send me an email. I may or may not be able to check my email. He's like, but do not text me. And that's based, so if the AI says, kind of the next step in the cadence is, first we email, then we text, then we this, you know, based on what I know of this individual, that human balance, then, I'm skipping that step.
Yeah, communication is understanding how people want to communicate is now more than ever important. I just talked about me breaking through my email. Texting for me, I'm like, okay, it's like a fine line for me in texting. Like, like we gotta like have a good rhythm before you can start like just texting me. If you come out of the gate cold, like texting me and be like, whoa, 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 whoa,
Report junk.
you've crossed the line. My Amazon account has not been suspended. You cannot be spamming me that way. Oh, that's good stuff. So I want to dig a little bit more into your background because I just reading over your stuff, I'm just like mind blown. So 30 plus years doing this now. You help out B2B and B2Z and nonprofits, like the whole gamut. Like, talk to me about the differences there, maybe what you're seeing kind of given the whole economy shift right now. Like, anything you can kind of share on differences and maybe how the tactics and some of the services differ from point to point, or maybe they don't.
So I think it's really more from the perspective of the size of the business. So small, medium business versus enterprise clients, whether it's B2B, B2C, or nonprofits. I think that there are different challenges that those SMBs, the small, medium businesses, are facing right now. As the economy gets bigger, um, has bigger issues that are going to impact those small and medium businesses more, and small and medium nonprofits um, more immediately, quicker than they are, on an enterprise level. And so that's kind of where we're seeing the biggest changes right now is, we're seeing that initial curve of spending drops in the small to medium businesses, but enterprise keeps spending away. you know so it really, I think, we when COVID hit, um, we saw everybody, there was a flurry of information. Everybody wanted to, we need to send out an email and put a banner up on our website and send out something on our social media. And then everything kind of fell off the cliff, and that was kind of across the board. We were very fortunate in that we had a client who was a global turnaround and restructuring company, and they recognized, as the COVID experience started to linger on, that there were going to be a lot of companies needing their services. So they ramped right up and said, give us everything you got. But we really talked to all of our clients then about um, how to do all of those things that they've been putting off for years. Every time you talk to a business owner and they say, if only I had time to start a blog, revamp my marketing strategy, redesign my website, all of those things, like we our our recommendations to them were, now's the time. You have the time. And I think that we're kind of almost at the opposite end of that, in that everybody is so focused on, I've got to make money right now, I've got to get squirrel all of the money away that I can, in case something happens, in case something goes bad. And so I think that is almost a frantic pace to marketing right now, in the small and medium business, um, to really make sure that you're doing all the right things. And that's kind of where performance marketing comes in, and that measurement of, what's working, what's not working. Let's, drop everything off that is not as effective as other channels, as other creatives, as other everything. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing right now across the small and medium business. Like I said, enterprise level clients, um, they're continuing to do what they've done in the past, and they're really not, at least in our experience, we're not seeing them hesitate.
Okay. So we talked in the beginning about, what has shocked you. We talked a little bit about privacy. We talked about email. We talked about paid, all those good things. I mean, talk to me a little bit. So you do some traditional, right? Or do you still do any traditional, like TV, media, anything like that, direct mail?
My background is direct response marketing. So I spent 20 years in a direct response television agency. The idea behind direct response is that there's always a call to action. Do it today, call now, come into our website, visit our stores. There's always some form of measurement, how many people actually did what we asked them to do. And then there's always some form of optimization. So what worked, what didn't, how are we making it better? John Wanamaker said 100 years ago, maybe even more than that at this point, 50% of my marketing works. I just don't know which 50%. And basically the idea behind direct response is we measure it and we tell you which 50% is working and how we're going to make that work better. And we tell you which 50% isn't working and how we're going to make that work. And so that, like I said, 20 years ago was done via TV because we didn't have the internet the way that we did. So, with that background, I do occasionally still get requests for TV. There are situations like OTT or over the top where you layer digital targeting onto traditional TV in order to find your target audience, in order to measure things like that. So there are opportunities there to combine that online and offline. We do still occasionally for clients do TV, radio, print, direct mail, billboards. We've even done bus ads. So it really is finding that right target audience for whoever the client is. Sometimes they're more offline than they are online.
Yeah, that's really important if you have your ICP defined. And I'm sharing with our clients right now and prospects that I talk to. I'm like, if you haven't revised your ICP in a while, now is the time to do it. A lot has changed over the last couple of years, and even the last 6 months. Your ideal customer profile, who you're selling to, your persona. We have in our segment, manufacturers, and I'm talking to a lot of manufacturers who are taking this time right now, this opportunity where they're like, hey, sales are pretty good. We don't need to be focused on, inbound, outbound, but let's operationally get better so that when it comes time, maybe in 2024, when we do need to market, that we'll be ready. So I am seeing a lot of, companies be smart about this time of saying, hey, let's get some of our tech stack right. Let's get our website in a good spot. Now is the time to do it. SmartAcre, we're investing in productizing some things too, which is really exciting. But the point is, don't forget about some of those traditional medias. I think we've layered in some direct mail. We've layered in some, especially for high touch outbound things that are going on right now. If you can crack am I sending it to the office or is it their home office? Just send it to the office. It will route to the correct person. But the beauty of that can still be tracked, right? You can request a signature and you can get the signature and make sure that it was found. And there's a lot of tricks, around that. So very interesting stuff. Let's switch gears a little bit here.
Okay.
We're about balance here. You mentioned it about balancing AI but I would love to learn from you a little bit and everything that you got going on. How do you find balance? Like, what do you believe in balance? Do you think that there's balance? Like, what do you do? What can you share with our listeners about balance?
I aspire to balance. So I think for me, from the perspective of balance, I I try and find time to spend with friends and family, to spend with my husband, the kids, our grandson, and future grandbaby. That to me is kind of my important balance time. And I try and turn off at least one day a week, whether that's a Saturday, Sunday, whatever. Try and turn off as much as I possibly can. Put the phone away and, be in the moment and enjoy that balance. Now, what that means is sometimes I'm working 12, 14-hour days to accommodate that balance, but it's worth it to me. It really is, because I think that the balance between work and home life is often at different stages in your life is often skewed one way or another. And as I've gotten a little bit older and recognized that, and I've seen some examples where people who work 24/7 until they get to a certain point where they keel over at their desk. And that's not the way I want my balance to go. I think that, there needs to be a balance there. It's tough as a mostly solopreneur to have that balance, because I don't have the executive level staff that can come in and say, hey, here's what's going to happen while Sharon's away. It really does kind of all come down to me. But with that said, I did take a couple days over the last couple weeks to take a nice trip with my husband, and that really refreshed and renewed my drive for the business, my thought process. Sometimes, you just need to step back from a project in order for the solution to come to you. And so there were certainly times where I grabbed the phone and was like, oh my gosh, like I had this best idea ever. And, did it stop me from dolphin, whale, and turtle watching? Not so much.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Yeah, it is. It is good. It's good to make sure you change the scenery around you, especially if you're in a remote home work from home environment. Like yesterday, I worked in 3 different places, just driving around, outside, inside, in a busy area. I made sure I had my noise canceling headphones for the busy area, but it was good. I got a lot done. And I like the unplugging too. Sometimes we get just sucked into like the digital devices, and like I use my iPad a lot when I'm on the road and around, but sometimes I won't connect to Wi-Fi, and that won't get me sucked into the apps that I'm using, my email, and I can just write some things. Something you talked about, making sure that you're finding things to enjoy your family and prioritizing them first. Retirement age is 67. Life expectancy is 78. So we're working 50 years to maybe enjoy 11. I'm reading this. This is what I came across my social feed. I think this is on LinkedIn. Start enjoying life now. No one is guaranteed tomorrow.
Exactly.
So I just I think that's really important. Whatever phase that you're in, you got to make sure you're prioritizing enjoyment, because if you're not, and then I talked about this in an early episode. It's like you have to work so many hours in a week, and then you're left with so much to sleep, and then you're left with so much for your whatever personal time, family time, whatever, right? But if you're not putting some of that stuff first, and you're not doing some things, that could be really difficult. So I'm glad you shared some of that with me.
Sleep is overrated.
Sleep is overrated. Nah, I really like sleep, but I like a good sleep. I don't need like a gazillion hours. Like I'm good with like a 7. Like if I get 7 hours of solid, that's good.
The win.
Yeah. I'm not up for. I don't like working. Like for me, me personally, I'm a little different. So like I would rather work a little bit every day, just like a little bit, and then do other things. And that's probably because I'm kind of like not even on like coffee. Like I'm all over the place. I like to like do a little of this and then move on to that, and then I'll get really focused on something. But versus like if I have to power through like 12 hours of stuff, that's draining on me. That really hurts. That really hurts. What's coming up for you kind of as you're looking into the middle of the year, the second half of the year? Have you been to some events? Talk about, have you been able to do some online stuff? I've seen a lot of events come back this year. I've been able to go to some live, which I think has been kind of almost like I was pinching myself. I'm like, crowd's still a little smaller in this live event, but like it's like back to quote unquote normal. What have you been seeing, or do you have anything coming up that you think is worthwhile that you can share?
So I actually just did an online webinar this morning on brand versus performance marketing, which was an interesting one, and you can get the kind of the replay of that. But from an in-person perspective, I am speaking at a couple events. I just did one that was like a brand builder type event And by brand builder, I mean performance in brand. And then I've got another one coming up in June out in California, where we're going to be talking about franchises and how that franchise marketing is different than, kind of the corporate focus, more local SEO and local marketing type situation. Google Business Profile is going to play a huge part of that, because the reviews in Google Business Profile go into your SEO value. And when you look at the map pack, you see, this one has 5-star rating with 20 reviews, and this one has 5-star rating with 1 review. Which one do I pick? Things like that. Then later on in the year, for the nonprofit clients, I'll be attending the Maryland Nonprofits Annual Conference. They actually had an in-person event last fall, and it was, to your point, it was a little bit quieter, but it was still surprisingly um, pretty full. And so I think that like you said, the in-person events, people are tired of being home by themselves, and they want to network, they want to meet with people in person. Um, I think that in Florida we saw a lot less um, of the big events, but we did still have a lot of smaller events in person. And I think that that's going to continue, and maybe even get bigger. Some of the events that I'm hearing about this year, it seems like I'm not hearing about events until kind of the last minute. So I don't know if it's because they're afraid that people are not going to attend, and so they're not really pushing until the last minute. But I think that, from at least from my perspective, the conferences that I'm hearing about, um, that seem to be well attended and that seem to be getting rave reviews this year so far, have been things that I've only heard about at the last minute. And I'm definitely making plans for 2024 to attend some of them.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, if you can get out there and still do it, and you don't have to do what I've seen. Some of the bigger events have gotten the duration has gotten smaller, so they've shortened up kind of the let's kind of get, people maybe don't want to be spending 2 or 3 days with us. Maybe a day and a half is plenty, and then you can just do a single overnight. There's still some really great events out there. In our world, SaaStr is a great event, SaaStr Annual. I'll put a link to all these, and Sharon, please share some of these. We'll drop some links in the description and on agencybalance.com on your profile there. We can share some of these if you want to attend. Inbound up in Boston is great. They're doing that again this year. It's going on this week. Salesforce has a lot of free events too. So just check if you're, in near a big city. I think New York is this week, so you can go to a big event for free. At least the attendant, like, you have to, pony up the stay and the travel, but if you can do that, and I think networking is great. Like, one of the events that I just was at, that I one of the missions I had was just to do that, was to network. And what I came well prepared was, I made this cool little QR code thing that I put on the back of my name tag. So rather than handing out business cards, I just have my QR code, and I flip it around and they scan it, and then they can connect with me on LinkedIn if they want. They can add my V card, or they can book a meeting with me. 3 little buttons right from their phone. So that was really, really cool. That's a cool little neat little trick that you can do. You can get a free QR code reader out there. You can just send it to a page. If you have some meeting booking software, it makes things even easier. But yeah, networking was one of my main things. And you get to meet a lot of different people and see just put yourself out there.
Exactly. You mentioned Salesforce, and that's traditionally a B2B focus. One of the other really great events that, from a B2B perspective, that I've attended in the past and will probably likely attend this year, is the Marketing Profs B2B conference. they do a great job and have some really dynamic speakers. So I think that's another good conference to try and get to.
Great stuff. Yeah, we've attended that as well. I absolutely recommend that. Put all the links in the description. What can we put a bow on? Let's end this. What can we put a bow on right now? So we talked about like what are we seeing right now? Farthest out that you can see. What is going to be like game changer or something that you're seeing that maybe could be a disruptor, in the industry? Is it continuing with AI? Are we going to see like is that going to be the thing for right now? What's your thoughts? Final thoughts?
I think that's going to be the thing for right now. I think AI is going to be game changer for good or for bad. To have companies all over the country and all over the world clamoring for AI, activity. And I think that's going to be for at least the short term, where it's going to be. I think, combining that with privacy, combining that um, with regulation, whether it's, local, regional, national, international, whatever, industry-wide regulation, that's going to be a lot of big changes in the next year or so.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Sharon. Can you remind our listeners how they can get in touch with you?
Sure. It's mostynmarketing.com, and just fill out the form. We're happy to connect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Have yourself a beautiful day, and thanks for coming on the Agency Balance.
Thanks, Dave. It was a pleasure being here, and I hope you have lots of balance in your upcoming sessions.
Subscribe to the podcast at agencybalance.com, Apple, YouTube, or Spotify.